Let's talk about the absolute wildest scoring anomalies in football history. We're diving straight into this explainer by looking at the ultimate flex on a football pitch, the hat trick. You know, the history books are just packed with records that totally defy logic and stretch our understanding of the sport. We're going to go all the way from chaotic Sunday leagues right up to the World Cup final and wrap things up with one of the fiercest statistical debates in the history of the beautiful game involving the legendary Pele.
But first, 70 seconds. Just let that sink in for a moment. 70 seconds is the exact time it took a guy named Alex Torre to score the fastest recorded hat trick ever in a 2013 Sunday League match in Sheffield. I mean, literally a minute and 10 seconds of game time, and he put the ball away 3 separate times. The opposing defense barely had time to process the kickoff before they were fishing the ball out of their own net again. It's just a blistering blink-and-you-miss-it kind of record that perfectly captures the pure chaos of football.
Now flip that completely. Try to wrap your head around a hat trick taking 44,638 minutes. Yeah, you heard me right. That's how long it took Adi Saeed in a 2023 Brunei League fixture. So how on earth does that even happen? Well, he gets his first in the 40th minute and grabs a second right before the half. Then the heavens open. A massive rainstorm completely floods the pitch and the match is suspended. And get this, the league didn't actually reschedule the rest of the game until almost a full month later. When they finally resumed, he steps up 13 minutes into the restart and slots a penalty. A hat trick that literally took about 31 days to finish.
Now, obviously scoring 3 goals isn't always a party. Sometimes it's a sheer nightmare. Take New Zealand defender Michaela Moore. Back in 2022, playing against the US, she lived out what has to be every defender's absolute worst fear. Within just 40 minutes, she scored a hat trick of own goals. And here's the truly agonizing part. It was incredibly close to a perfect hat trick. Left foot, right foot, header. Just all into her own team's net. It's honestly a brutal reminder of how razor-thin the margins of error are at that elite international level.
Okay, let's pivot away from the heartbreak to something just purely magnificent. Legendary Paraguayan keeper Jose Luis Chilavert. Keepers are there to stop goals, right? But in 1999, playing in Argentina, Chilavert completely flipped the script and scored 3 penalties in one single game. 3. Just think about the sheer nerve it takes for a goalkeeper to jog the entire length of the pitch, take a penalty, and jog back 3 separate times without missing. He remains the only goalkeeper in the professional history of the sport with a hat trick to his name.
Moving into the modern era, if we look at the raw data for active players, you already know who's dominating. Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi just absolutely tower over everyone else. Ronaldo is sitting on an unbelievable 66 career hat tricks, and Messi is right there behind him with 60. To put that into perspective, a world-class striker would be over the moon to get, say, 5 or 6 in their entire career. These two guys, they've made the impossible look entirely routine for the better part of 2 decades.
But here's the kicker. Even those modern titans with all the sports science, perfect pitches, and optimized training, they still trail one historical icon. 92. That is the Guinness World Record for the most career hat tricks, and it belongs to none other than Pele. That means in 92 different matches, he scored 3 or more goals. It's a sheer volume of scoring that honestly melts your brain a little bit, racked up during his time with Santos, the Cosmos, and of course the Brazilian national team.
And when he took that talent to the absolute biggest stage, the impact was undeniable. Tracking his 12 World Cup goals, it all kicks off with that massive 1958 breakout. He was a 17-year-old kid scoring 6 goals, including a hat trick in the semifinal and a brace in the final. Now, injuries definitely slowed him down in 62 and 66. He only managed 1 goal in each of those tournaments. But then we get the majestic 1970 comeback, netting 4 goals to help Brazil secure their 3rd World Cup. Those 12 goals in 14 matches are iconic. But when we zoom out to look at his entire international record, things get a little complicated.
Because to truly get a handle on Pele's total international goals, we have to pause and establish what actually counts in today's record books. By FIFA's strict modern standards, an official international goal has to be scored in a competitive fixture or a recognized friendly specifically between 2 senior national teams. That's the baseline. It completely throws out any exhibition matches against club teams, regional select squads, or military teams. Keep this definition firmly locked in your mind because it is the entire basis of the controversy we're about to unpack.
So, applying those strict FIFA rules, Pele's official count sits at 77 international goals. The breakdown looks like this. You've got the 12 World Cup goals, 14 from Copa America and qualifiers, and 17 from other regional tournaments. But notice the biggest chunk? 34 goals came from international friendlies. Now today, friendly sounds pretty casual, right? But back in Pele's day, these national team clashes were absolute wars. They were massive, highly competitive spectacles used to test out squads against transcontinental rivals.
And if you dig into the data on those 77 goals, you see exactly who was on the receiving end. He wasn't just padding his stats against minnows. His top targets were fierce South American rivals. He dropped 11 goals on Argentina in just 13 matches. 11! He also put 10 past Paraguay and 8 past Uruguay, scoring the bulk of your goals against some of the most physical, defensively brutal teams of that era. That just screams absolute quality.
But because of those very strict modern definitions we just talked about, history technically shifted in 2023. Neymar officially overtook Pele's record of 77. He now sits at 79 official goals, making him Brazil's all-time leading scorer, at least according to the international governing body. When Neymar hit number 78 and 79, global headlines were practically crowning him the new king. But if you happen to be reading the local papers in Brazil, well, you were getting a totally different narrative.
And here is the giant historical debate. FIFA says 77 goals in 92 matches, but the CBF, the Brazilian Football Confederation, flat out rejects that. They officially recognize Pele as having 95 goals in 113 matches. In their record books, Pele is still comfortably the top scorer, and Neymar has quite a bit of catching up to do. So you have to ask, where on earth are these phantom 18 goals in 21 matches coming from?
It all comes down to the context of the era. Those 18 disputed goals happened in matches against major European and South American club sides or regional select teams. Now, modern rules say those don't count for national records, but the Brazilian Federation argues that deleting them is just erasing football history. Back then, national teams actively relied on scheduling massive tours against powerhouse domestic clubs to raise money and genuinely test their strength. For the CBF, putting on that famous yellow shirt and scoring against an elite club team was every bit as valid as scoring against a neighboring country.
Which really leaves us with a massive question. How do we actually measure greatness across totally different eras of the game? Can we really just take the highly regulated, perfectly manicured stats of today and map them onto the barnstorming, Wild West legacy of football's past? Whether you're in the 77-goal camp or the 95-goal camp, or whether you prefer a 72nd Sunday League hat-trick over a World Cup masterclass, the numbers honestly only give us half the story. The context is what makes the history of this sport so endlessly fascinating. Thanks for hanging out for this explainer. I really hope it gave you a fresh way to look at the record books.